This is a redo of my skins breakdown because I had included a clip from the show that other people have uploaded it before without permission, and they've used more than I have, and they're fine, but I'm not for some reason. And that would have been alright because it's only been blocked in certain countries, but one of those countries is the United Kingdom, even though the United Kingdom isn't a country, but they classify it as a country. So I'm redoing it, but instead I'm just going to say what the person says instead of showing the clip. I forgot to mention I'm going to be playing Siege while doing this. I don't know how I'm going to do this one. So, I don't remember much about episode 1 because I watched it, I think, sometime in 2020. And I initially didn't like the episode. But I was reminded of what happened. So, Tony Sonam is the main character out of this bunch. I'm going to call this bunch Generation. I'll explain why later. He calls all his friends and basically just says that, we're going to get hammered tonight. And he asks his mate, Sid, to buy some weed. Sid does. And Sid now owes however much money to a drug dealer called the Mad Twatter. And I don't know if this is just in the American version, because I did watch episode 1 of the American version today. But Tony tried to call him, saying, don't buy the drugs. But Tony was saying this as Sid was buying the drugs. Anyway, eventually at the end, they all get in a car and they crash into a river or whatever, but they're all fine. The riverbed is the only thing that I remember from episode 1 before I was reminded of what happened. Anyway, every episode focuses on a character, but it does progress the stories of a lot of characters. So, episode 1 was Tony, but you got to know a lot about all the other characters through Tony's episode. And the same goes for episode 2, which is about Cassie, who is... she's everything. On the surface, she looks like... I get people who are going to be like, oh, you have a crush on, but she's very, very pretty, very beautiful, wearing like flowery dresses, and also looks a bit childish, a bit childlike. But really, she's anorexic, suicidal, possibly bipolar, and also other mental health issues. So her episode, I've watched this around the same time that I gave a second chance for Shameless. So about a year ago, I think. I don't remember anything from it. The only thing I can remember is that Sid is feeling bad that the Mad Twatter is going to kill him. So, episode 3, which focuses on I don't remember. Okay, so I don't like the videos, but I'll look up the description on Netflix for Cassie's episode. And it's basically just her fooling everyone into thinking that she's overcome her anorexia. And she's finding refuge in Sid, possibly developing a crush on Sid. But Sid has a crush on Michelle, who is Tony's girlfriend. Anyway, episode 3 is focusing on Jal, who is... she doesn't really have okay, she's Michelle's best friend. And is a musician, and most of the episode focuses on her trying to be a musician. But at the end of the episode, Mad Twatter catches up to Sid and decides to break Giles' clarinet as payment. But Giles' dad, who was a gangster, kidnaps Mad Twatter and possibly kills him. I don't remember. I don't think they show it. Episode 4 focuses on Chris, who he doesn't really have a best friend / going out with relationship with the previously mentioned characters. But Chris's mum has disappeared, leaving him about £1,000. And he has to come to terms with the fact that his mum may never return. I've literally just stolen that from Netflix's subscription. And I've only reworded it slightly differently. I'm very sorry. That's all I really remember from that episode, is that he throws a party and then he gets kicked out of his house. So he lives with, or not with, but he lives in, right, he has a crush on one of his teachers, and the teacher is generous enough to let him stay somewhere. It was like a dorm or something, I remember. Episode 5 focuses on Sid. And I'm only getting this from the thumbnail of the episode, but in this episode, Tony is in the choir of a posh girls' school, and they were doing a choir and all, singing a very romantic song. I think it was God Only Knows. Could be wrong though. And at the end, he kisses this really posh girl. Michelle sees him doing that, so they're broken up. That's the only thing I remember from that episode. Episode 6 focuses on Maxie and Anwar. They are best friends. Anwar is Muslim, Maxie is gay. And they didn't really have a problem with it up until now, but that does cause a bit of a conflict, because, you know, Muslims generally don't like gay people. It's not homophobic or Islamophobic for me to say that is true. Just watch the episode. But in this episode, they go to Russia, and Anwar falls for a Russian girl. Tony decides to stay with Anwar because they're all in different rooms that have 2 beds each. So Maxie and Tony are in a room. I think Anwar and Sid are in another. And Tony decides that he is bored, so he wants to have sex with Maxie, despite the fact that he's not gay. And he keeps on bugging Maxie, basically saying, "Can we have sex?" over and over again. But Maxie refuses because Maxie doesn't want. Sorry, I just couldn't pay attention to my book while my voice was playing. Plus, I actually wanted to hear, and I was sneaking up behind me. So what I'm going to do is, if I've connected my headphones to the PlayStation, so I'm going to watch Netflix while this is playing. But hopefully, you won't be able to hear it. That second with his straight friend. Anyway, at the end of the episode, Michelle, I think she's drunk or tired or something like that, she ends up in Tony's bed. And Tony thinks that she is asleep. Tony once again tries to suck Maxie's dick, and Michelle sees this. So in episode 7, which focuses on Michelle, she breaks up with Tony and starts going out with a boy named Josh, who is actually the sister of the girl that Tony kissed after choir. Tony tries to get Michelle back by putting the nudes I'm right. I'm trying to remember the girl's name, the posh girl. I think her name is Abigail. I could be wrong though. I'm gonna call her Abigail for the rest of the video. So Abigail sent Tony nudes. Tony put those nudes on Josh's phone, and create a series of events that would lead to Michelle seeing Josh's sister's nudes on Josh's phone, and she breaks up with him, believing him to be inbred. And instead of getting back with Tony, Michelle just decides to go solo. In episode 8, which focuses on Effie, who is Tony's sister, she goes out to a party and accidentally meets Josh, and she takes some drugs. But these drugs were spiked, so she passes out. Tony goes looking for her with Sid's help, eventually finding Max, and Josh says that he knows that Tony was responsible for everything that happened. If he wants to get his sister back, he's going to have to screw his sister. Tony refuses and ends up walking away anyway with Effie. But all his clothes except for his pants are off, so maybe that's what the trade was. I don't remember. Sorry. In episode 9, which focuses on everyone, Sid realizes that he loves Cassie instead of Michelle and goes to find her, but she's actually moving away to Scotland. I think they do end up actually kissing and deciding to have a long distance relationship at the end. I don't know though. And at the end, also, Tony phones Michelle to confess his love for her, but he does this in the middle of the road and ends up getting hit by a bus. That's how season 1 ends. Season 2, episode 1 focuses on Tony and Maxie. Tony is recovering from the bus accident, and Maxie is the one that's helping him. But Maxie wants to become a dancer, and he believes that someone is following him, someone is stalking him. In episode 2, which focuses on a new character called Sketch, we learn that Sketch is the one that's stalking Maxie because Sketch fancies Maxie. Problem is, Sketch is a woman, and Maxie is gay. I'm pretty sure this is stuff that Sketch knows, but she doesn't care. She just loves Sketch too much. So, Maxie and Michelle were going to do a play. Like a sort of a musical about 9/11. For some reason. I'm not surprised though. That probably does exist in real life. Anyway, the Sketch drugs Michelle the night that the play was supposed to be performed. So that the director's like, oh no, what can we do? And Sketch says, I know all the lines. And no one else does. So Sketch gets to go on and do the romantic 9/11 musical, where she ends up kissing Maxie in the end. I don't remember how, but Maxie found out that Sketch is a stalker, and he tried to tell Sketch to back off because he's gay. But anyway, instead of fake kissing, well, I think when it comes to acting, if it's a kissing scene, most of it is fake. But instead of fake kissing, excuse me, they really kiss. And after the kiss, Maxie says that he felt no sexual attraction. remember anything about this episode, let me just read the Netflix script. Sid hasn't coped well with the fact that Tony isn't who he used to be soon. Sid is headed for life crisis and leaves him needing Tony more than ever. Oh, right, yes, of course, how can I forget? So, Sid's dad, played by Peter Capaldi, his family comes around and they're more successful than Sid's dad. I'm just going to call Sid's dad Peter. So, Peter's family moves in, and his brother, or brothers, I don't remember, and his dad. And then eventually they move out because they're all just being pricks. And I don't remember if Sid gets Peter to stand up for himself or Peter just stands up for himself and basically gets his family out. But he died. Just in his stomach. He sat down with a drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And he just didn't blink for about 8 hours until Sid got up and saw the body. Anyway, episode 4 focuses on Michelle. It's her birthday, and she decides to go to the beach and go camping. But there is this girl, her stepsister, I think, who goes along with her, and people all fancy her, including the straight girls and the gay guys. I don't think Maxie was there. But, you know, everyone was fancying Michelle's stepsister. And Michelle was very jealous. And eventually, she just storms off, and Sid finds her. They end up having sex constantly. And also, Sketch and Anwar start having sex. But at the end of the episode, I forgot to mention that Sketch only starts having sex with Anwar so that he can manipulate him. I'm trying to down at the same time. Manipulate him into being a little bit more like Maxie when they have sex. Like dyeing his hair and growing it out and all. They go back to Bristol, which is where the show's set. They go to Sid's house to go and have sex. But Cassie is there. She got back from Scotland. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Sid was fine with cheating on Cassie because Cassie moved in with these 2 Scottish guys who the 3 of them had recorded like a message for Sid just saying, you know, how are you? This was happening in Scotland. And the 2 Scottish guys had made some very sexual comments about Cassie without Cassie realising, saying, like, they were talking about playing the bagpipes, and one of them said, you just need to finger it. And it just seemed like they were trying to say to Sid, we're going to screw your girlfriend. So that's why Sid was fine with cheating on Michelle, but it turns out that Cassie wasn't screwing the 2 Scottish guys. Turns out those 2 Scottish guys are gay for each other. So she comes back to Bristol, only to find Michelle and Sid screwing, or beginning to screw. Right. Anyway, episode 5 focuses on Chris. Yeah, so I gotta forget this. Chris gets expelled from school. So, with nothing else to do, he decides to get a job. He gets a job, and Michelle is very impressed. They start to go out. However, I forgot to mention that I think it was in Russia that Chris and the teacher that he fancies, whose name is Angie, they start screwing. And at this point, they hadn't seen each other in the entirety of season 2, or as Netflix calls it, volume 2. But wait, Chris's job, he's a seal house realtor, or realtor, whatever you call it. And Angie goes there looking to buy a house, and then eventually they have sex, and at this point, Chris is dating Jal, and Jal catches them after having sex. Chris had his shirt on inside out, but eventually they make up. Episode 6 focuses on Tony on his own. I don't remember. Oh, right, this. So, Cassie decides to get revenge for Michelle and said she should have sex with Tony. Tony rejects this because his dick doesn't work. And he decides to tour a college or university, whatever, out of town, where the principal or whatever, headmaster, I don't know, played by Sean Pertwee, antagonizes him, and he meets this strange girl. And eventually, this strange girl ends up making Tony's dick work again. I think this girl doesn't exist. I don't think they revealed if she does or not.
Okay, so I gotta go work this, so that's why I'm trying to eat at the same time, because I don't have any time.
This work on Friday the 10th of June 2022. I know that it's been nearly a month, but that's because I think I might have said this, but I was supposed to work on the 21st, but they actually messaged me saying, can you please not come in? I think there was like a very tiny amount of people there. Anyway. So, I go in, and 2 girls are there. One of them I've already talked about. I called her old woman, I think. Which, sorry once again for that. I know her name now, and I'm going to change it up. I'm going to call her Eve. And there was another girl there. I'm going to call her Tina. I feel like I was about to spit up something there, but I didn't. Anyway, so they're wearing identical outfits, and I'm pretty sure old woman and young woman were wearing them last time, or sorry, Eve and young woman, who there's no point in giving her a different name because I was fired. But I'll get into that later. So I walk in and don't really say anything and just put my head on, and I'm hoping that Eve knew who I was from watching me work last time. Otherwise, both of them would have been thinking, who is this guy storming in here getting the work? Does he actually work with us? Anyway, but then boss comes in, says, hi Dylan. Oh, he knows my name. I say hi. I don't even know if I should call him by his name, because other people call him by his name, or if I should call him sir, or if I should call him boss. So I get at it. And then eventually, the girl who was running the hiring, she is the manager. I'm going to give her the name Kate. I think I might have already used the names Kate and Eve in the school videos. If I have, these are different people. No one from school works where I worked that I know of. Anyway, she comes in, and eventually she goes around to see what I'm doing, and she realized I'm doing everything wrong. But I was doing everything that I did last time, and no one complained, and I was working for about 2 hours. But anyway, she says, oh, you're doing all wrong, and she was emptying the drain, saying, put the food away, and from her hand gestures, and her saying, put the food away. Now, I can't hear much, and none of them seem to know that. Not that I should expect them to, because I never pointed it out. But anyway, saying, put the food away. I shouldn't. I'm the manager. I shouldn't be getting my hands dirty. And put my hands in the dirty sink. And I don't mean to be rude, but I just have to make this comment. I'm sorry. I just have to. Oh no. I can't get your perfect nails ruined. That's it over. I'm sorry. I just had to say it. Anyway, she says, plug the sink, fill it up, something. When the water gets dirty, empty it and do it all over again. And I did that. And she came back later and said, no, don't dry the dishes. Put them here and get someone else to do it for you. So I stopped drying the dishes and put them over where she said. And I just went at it over and over again until Tina came up and started drying everything that I'd done. And she was very nice. Both her and Eve said, don't mind Paul, he's a bitch. Or don't mind crap. I'm sorry. Don't mind boss. He's an asshole. Anyway, so I was going at it for a good while, but the boss seemed to be getting pissed off at me. But after they said don't mind him, he's an asshole, I was like, okay, it's not targeted. This isn't school. This is a workplace. If this was targeted harassment, you can sue him. This isn't targeted harassment. He's just an asshole when he's stressed, and it's justifiable stress. Anyway. So, eventually Tina asked me if I wanted a drink of water. I said, yes, please. And, she put it close. And eventually I forgot all about it. I really needed a drink, but I didn't want to break the workflow, because I feel like that if I took even a split-second break of any kind, even if it was just having a small sip, I felt like I would get my head chewed off by either one of the bosses, because if I were still employed at them, I would have started calling, what did I call her? Kit? I would have started calling her female boss, the same way that I call the female head of year, the male head of year, the female head of year, and the male head of year. So I kept going, and it was fine. I got to home time, got my pay, got £15, and I got sort of pulled to the side, and they said, so we didn't know that something, the person that interviewed me, in air quotes, from last week, his name, Steve, I'm gonna call him. So something, Steve, something, boss, something. This is your last shift. So am I? Yes. Don't come in tomorrow. So the reason why I said something over and over again is because I couldn't hear her well. But I think what she said is that we did not know that you were not trained. And this is our fault, because there was no communication between Steve and me and the male boss. And instead of sorting this out, you're fired. But I could be wrong. So that's just great. First job went terrible, and I feel like closer to all all the people that you shouldn't really feel close to at all, like Tyler Durden and Patrick Bateman. So yeah, I really don't want to get another job because like the interview's the thing that I thought I was most scared of, and I'm pretty scared of the interview because I technically didn't have one. Um, but I want something where I get instructions that are clear, I do them, and I keep getting instructions until it's home time. I don't have to get up and go, hey, I'm done, give me something else to do. Or, what else can I do? I just I want it to be like school, minus the bullying. Here's what we want you to do. Do it. Okay, good job. Do this next. Okay, good job. Over and over again. And that seems boring, but I just can't do excitement. I've already had too much of it with all the bullying. Anyway, back to the breakdown.
I really need to lens up right now. Anyway, episode 7 focuses on Effie. She has moved to a different school and met a girl called Pandora, who is very weird because her mum is a terrible mum. And the way Pandora acts, like, yeah, this is Wizard. Hey Effie, hey F. What's that? Oh, you're doing drugs? Doing something, yeah, that's Wizard. I'm trying to remember what the episode is actually about other than Pandora. Right, I just read the Netflix description and I haven't got anything. So I'm just going to go on to episode 8, which focuses on Cal.
I think it's just Effie and Pandora partying. And Christ, is that my bone? I forgot to mention this, but I actually burned myself because the water tap is just way too hot. Like, I don't understand what you're supposed to do when it comes to that, because obviously don't use the cold tap because that's not going to kill any germs. You need to use the hot tap to kill germs. Understand that. Excuse me, the hot tap is really hot in order to kill germs, but it's going to kill me as well. I look older than my granda at the hands. I'm surprised that I haven't got trench hand, if that's a thing. Anyway.
Jal is pregnant and Chris is dead. But she also wants to move out of town to go to a music college thing. And Chris doesn't want her to go. But she does. But she decides it's not for her and comes back, only to find Chris in the hospital. Because I forgot to mention that Chris has this hereditary blood thing, but he's fine. He ends up moving in with Cassie. Cassie takes care of her. So in episode 9, which focuses on Cassie, Chris dies. His dad picks up the body and tells everyone not to go to the funeral. And Cassie moves to New York. In episode 10, which is the final goodbyes, because at the end, so we'll just call it everyone. They get their grades and they all did well. And they hold their own funeral for Chris. So Tony and Michelle go to two different schools, and Tony surprises Sid by taking him to the airport so he can go to New York and meet Cassie. I know I said that was the end, but Season 3, Episode 1 focuses on everyone. The way Skins works is that every 2 years the cast gets replaced. These bunch of characters are known as the generations. So the first 2 seasons were Generation 1. This is now Generation 2. It hurts when I talk. Episode 1 focuses on everyone. So it's hard to do when I focus on everyone. Freddy, a skateboarder guy, skateboards to meet his mates JJ and Cook. JJ is an autistic, asocial magician, and Cook is basically the complete opposite. He's a lad. Freddy is somewhere in the middle. So they go to school and they meet, they meet Effie. Tony's brother Effie is now taking over as the main character. Or well, you can decide who the main character is, but I'd say that it's Tony and Effie. Anyway. Oh, this person that I've been showing for the entire 24 minutes this video's been on, that's Cook. So, anyway. They have a induction day for their school, because it's everyone's first day, back when they're 16. And there are 2 teachers that are worth mentioning there. I don't remember the first guy's name, but he likes to go like, "Oggy, oggy, foggy," all the time in very inappropriate situations. Oh, you're crying because your mum died? I know, I'll cheer you up. Oggy, oggy, oggy. Oh, you're crying even more. I don't know what to do now. Anyway. And the second guy is Arnold O'Hanlon from Death in Paradise, Dairy Girls, and Father Ted. I'll get to him later. But anyway, Cook starts harassing a girl called Naomi Campbell, who she doesn't know. She's sexually confused. She thinks she's gay, but she has tried having sex with men to get rid of her gay thoughts because her parents are very strict, and if they found out she was gay, she'd be kicked out. Anyway, Cook is harassing Naomi, saying, "You have got attached him a cock, you want to see?" So Naomi just stands up and says, "Sir, Cook is harassing me, telling me he's got a tattoo on his cock." And one of the teachers, I don't remember who, says, "Okay, get it right down." And he does. You don't actually see his cock, you do see a tattoo on his ass of like a woman's hands grabbing his ass. That still cracks me up. Anyway, so Cook hits on Effie next, and Effie says, "If you can do this, 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 and this, I will have sex with you." And it's just like arson, violence, all evil stuff. I do it all basically immediately by taking, right, so Cook gets Sid's old locker, and Sid had some vodka and other things, and Cook decides to fill out the entire list in one go by drinking some of the vodka, pouring it in Sid's locker, and lighting it on fire. So, he and Effie have sex. Episode 2 focuses on Cook. It's his birthday. He decides to go to a friend's wedding. The only problem is the bride's dad is a gangster, played by Mackenzie Crook. and the groom or whatever, I don't know what you call the man that's getting married. I think it's the groom. I'm gonna call him the groom for now. The groom is the son of a gangster from another gang. They're both marrying into each other's gangs for like a peace treaty. You can tell that I don't know much about gangs, but anyway, something. Oh, Cook starts flirting with the bride. Mackenzie just has enough of it, and Mackenzie wants to kill Cook, and eventually, JJ and Cook go to a brothel, and the entire time you can hear someone screaming out, sounding like they're getting their nuts electrocuted. So they decide to look who it is, and it's Mackenzie. Cook takes photos for blackmail, and Mackenzie backs off, and he's never seen again. Episode 3 focuses on a character who hasn't joined until this episode, called Thomas, who is from the Congo but speaks French. He emigrated to America, or to England, on his own, because they can only afford for him to go. He's going to work in order to bring his family. He works as a janitor in the school, and ends up meeting the gang. But he lives in Mackenzie's apartment block. So Mackenzie is antagonizing him, and decides to show Thomas how tough he is by drinking an entire pot noodle in one go. Because in Britain, that's tough as nails. That also really cracks me up.
As you mentioned, Thomas thought, well, maybe it's just me that thought it, but I thought that Mackenzie would throw the pot noodle in Thomas's face, like burn it. But then he ended up drinking it. And I don't think I mentioned this, but he got Mackenzie to back off because eventually Cook saw it the next day and said, Mackenzie, that's my mate, and don't forget that, if you don't back off from my mates, I'm gonna show everyone the video.
Anyway, so Pandora, who is now also part of Gen 2, ends up deciding that she wants Thomas to be her first, as in they're going to screw. But before they do it, a knock. Someone knocks on Thomas's door. Turns out it's his mum, who was somehow able to get to England early. And she sees people partying, and Pandora, with her tits out, saying, "Come back to bed." But I think she said something like, "Aren't my tits about glass?" "Oh, well, hi, little children," she says, with the only thing covering her tits is her hand. Anyway, so the mum was like, "Right, pack your bags, we're going back to the Congo." Oh, and I forgot that for 17 years, as long as Pandora's been alive, Pandora has been drinking what she thought was tea. It was wheat. She was drinking wheat tea. And Thomas recognized that it was wheat and decided to take some of the wheat and sell it. I just found it funny that Pandora's been drinking weed tea for as long as she can remember. Anyway, episode 4 focuses on Pandora, who is upset at the fact that Thomas, will probably never return to England again. and she decides to throw a boys-only party. But Cook
Girls only party.
somehow learns that the party is happening. Well, because they didn't realize that it was a girls-only party at the time. So Cook, JJ, and Freddy come, but they learn that it's a girls-only party. So Pandora, Effie, Naomi, and two characters that have been in it since the start, or since the start of this generation, but I just haven't mentioned because they weren't really important in the story at this point. Identical twins, Emily and Katie Fitch. Just going to give a little bit of a backstory of these. Katie saw Naomi kiss Emily and thought that Naomi was kissing Emily, thinking that Emily is straight. She's not. Emily's gay, and Emily's the one that she kissed Naomi. Emily is sure she's gay, whereas Naomi isn't. Anyway, so they're all there. One of them, Effie, I think, decides to bring some drug, whatever it was, to the house, and Pandora's mom is cooking brownies, baking brownies, whatever. And while she isn't looking, Effie dumps a whole lot of the drugs into the brownies, so they all get really high. And Pandora's mom passes out. So Cook comes in, because the reason why it's the boys' party is because Pandora's mom just hates boys. And the reason why, I'll get to in a minute. So Cook comes in, and he ends up trapped in Pandora's mom's wardrobe. Effie is able to get him out and have sex, and they come out of they have sex in the wardrobe. They come out, but they realize that this isn't Pandora's mom's room. This is actually the room of the next door neighbor, who has been calling Cook a lad, basically, and not in a good way, the entire episode. And they find a DVD, and turns out the DVD is of Pandora's mom and their neighbor having sex. So both these two people are hypocrites.
I should have explained more. I was like, "Hi, my name is Peter, and this is how I have sex. Come in, partner. Hi, I'm Pandora's mom." And then they have sex. It's just, the introduction was funny. I should have mentioned it.
Anyway, at the end of the episode, Pandora has sex,
Whoops.
and the next day, Effie realizes this, but tells Pandora to look behind her because Thomas is there. Yeah. Episode 5 focuses on Fred.
Sorry, I think I skipped over what I said there. Pandora has sex with Cook.
So, Freddy's sister is auditioning for what is basically the X Factor. And Freddy just doesn't have any freedom because he has to constantly be supporting his sister because his dad says so. That's basically all that is for that sort of thing. Anyway, episode 6 focuses on Naomi. There's school president, or student, something like student council, whatever. Election. Cook and Naomi run. Most of the results are for Cook, but Cook promises nothing but anarchy. So the teachers decide to hide some of the votes for Cook so that Naomi wins. But Naomi notices this, And when I call out that Naomi is mom, she goes, that's weird. Because uh, the teacher decided to hide most of the cooks, by stuffing them in her bra. So Naomi basically just says, your tits are looking bigger than usual, and just pulls out all the votes. Hey, these are for Cook. Cook won. At that point, they can't back off, so Cook becomes class president. Oh, and Ardle starts banging Naomi's mom, played by Olivia Colman. Anyway, excuse my chair creaking. Episode 7 focuses on JJ. I don't know much about this episode other than I think in this episode, despite being gay, Emily decides to have sex with JJ and pity him. So episode 8 focuses on Effie. They go camping in the woods similar to Michelle's last episode. And there are three creepy guys who try to rape Emily or Katie. And they're just... Sorry. I think there's something in my throat. No, I couldn't get it. Anyway. Just being generally creepy towards the gang. So, the only person that isn't with them is Cook, because Cook was being a dick to everyone. Well, who knows. So, Effie was screwing Cook for a while. Well, ever since the start of the season. But eventually broke up with him because he screwed Pandora. And now Effie is interested in Freddy, but Freddy is screwing Katie. In the woods, while they're all high, Katie realizes that Effie is interested in Freddy and attacks her. Effie fights back, hitting her with a rock and putting her in a coma. And immediately, Effie has sex with Freddy. Freddy didn't know what had happened at the time. But eventually, they go to the hospital, Katie wakes up and tells everyone what happened. So, Effie and Cook go on the run. Episode 9 focuses on Katie and Emily. Katie's too embarrassed to go in school, so Emily decides to act like her because they're identical twins. Yeah, that's all that episode really is from what I remember. So, episode 10 is everyone. So, Cook and Effie have been going from town to town, just hitting pubs and all, until they get to the town where Cook's dad is. I'm going to call Cook's dad Frank, because he reminds me of the UK version of Frank Gallagher, not the William H. Macy one, the David Fralfall Frank. Anyway. So, Frank is heavily in debt with the local pub owner, excuse my stomach. And in that town, they have like this race thing where you have a granny hops on your back and you have to carry her around town. So it was originally Cook and the pub owner's son racing, but JJ and Freddy tracked them down because Effie had texted them, or they were, and they participate. So the race ended up becoming about who's going to screw Effie, Freddy or Cook. But JJ won, and eventually Effie decides that she's going to be screwing Freddy, I think. So, yeah. We didn't go on to season 4 at this point. There's a book. In the book, Emily and Katie and their family go to France. Meanwhile, Effie and her mum go to Italy. Effie meets this 40-year-old guy who, for some reason, she doesn't even know why, she really wants to have sex with him, and tries to get multiple occasions, but it just does not work out. And the guy just basically trying to say over and over again, you're pretty, I like you as a friend, but I'm not a pedophile. So it just doesn't happen. Eventually, Katie decides to go to Italy to make her peace with Effie, and they do. And that's basically the whole book. There's other stuff going on with like a competition that Cook has with Freddy with who's going to have the most amount of sex, but there's not much story there. So now we're on season 4. Episode 1 focuses on Thomas. A girl called Sophia Moore takes some drugs and kills herself in a club that Thomas is working in. Despite the fact that it had nothing to do with Thomas, he gets fired and expelled. Despite the fact that he was working in the school and not attending it, but whatever. That's basically that entire episode. Episode 2 focuses on Emily. And they're dating. Naomi eventually confesses to Emily that she sold Sophia the drugs. And also, Emily finds out that Naomi knew Sophia before she died and was sleeping with her a bit. That's basically the whole episode from what I remember. Episode 3 focuses on Cook. Cook gave Naomi the drugs, and Naomi gave the drugs to Sophia. Cook decides to make the ultimate sacrifice and confess. He even lied, saying that he did some stuff that he didn't do. And he gets put in prison, I think, for a life. I know I'm really speeding through this season, but it's just all I remember. Episode 4 focuses on Katie. The Fitch family go bankrupt. So, that's basically the whole episode. Katie ends up moving in with Emily and Naomi. And because Emily's whole family, bar Katie, are homophobic, and because Emily is very drunk and high, she decides to do some very ridiculous stuff, like non-consensually pushing Naomi into a pool, just so she can say, "They make you wet, babe," basically. You know, just trying to be very, very sexual towards Naomi in order to piss off her family. And they end up breaking up. Episode 5 focuses on Freddy. So Freddy and Effie dating ends up leading to Effie going insane. She ends up cutting herself and being put in a mental institute. Episode 6 focuses on JJ. JJ is working in a sweet shop with Thomas, and there's this girl that both of them fancy. JJ ends up asking her out, she accepts, and they're dating. This episode doesn't really put much story forward, other than Cook escaped from prison and is hiding in JJ's house. And this unfolds when the girl that he finds is called Lara. Lara tries to use the bathroom, but Cook is hiding in the bathroom. So JJ basically saying, "No, you cannot use the bathroom," and he's just being very weird because Lara nor JJ's family is getting the context of why they can't use the bathroom. So Lara breaks up with JJ, but eventually they reconcile off camera. And Cook comes out and JJ's mom says, "Were you in prison?" "Yeah." "Okay, piss off before I remember you were here." Yeah. Episode 7 focuses on Effie. She is working with a doctor called John Foster, I think his name is. So after however many therapy sessions, John decides that Effie is safe to return to normal life. So she does. But part of Effie's therapy was talking about bad memories, such as Tony getting hit by the bus at the end of season 1. And John essentially hypnotized her into believing that nothing had happened at that point, and it just sort of backfires. Effie doesn't even remember her brother. She remembers part of it, so she remembers both Tony getting hit by the bus and Tony not getting hit by the bus at the same time. So to try and push the memories out, she runs in the middle of the road, but Cook is able to tackle her before a car hits her. And she decides that she's becoming very dependent on John, like a drug addict with drugs. But eventually Freddie realizes that John's therapy isn't working and is actually very harmful towards Effie. So, and she explains this to Effie and Effie's mum, and they all decide it's for the best that John stops being Effie's therapist. But John doesn't want to, because John has grown attached to Effie and is willing to do literally anything to protect her. So he invites Freddie to his house to explain some things. And he explains some things. Freddie decides, screw this, and tries to leave, but the door is locked. And John is approaching him very slowly with a bat. I think you know what happens next. Episode 8 focuses on everyone. The only thing that's important here is that John is stalking the entire gang, and because Cook was out for a piss, he notices John, follows him back home. He breaks into John's home and realizes, oh crap, that's why Freddy hasn't been around in a while. John murdered him. And John catches him in his house and basically saying, get out, and get out of Effie's life. I'm going to do anything to protect her. You're a nobody. And this is Cook's reply.
This is what I got a copy respect for, so I'm just going to read out what he said. I'm a waste of space. I'm just a stupid kid. Got no sense. A criminal. I'm no use, me. I am nothing. So please, get it into your, into your bonds. That you killed my friend. And I'm Cook.
I love that. Instead of going on season 5, there's another book. This book was released after season 5 aired, but it takes place about a year before season 5, so around the same time as season 4. But no characters from Gen 2 appear in Gen 3. Gen 1 and 2 had the connection because Effie and Pandora were in Gen 1, but no one from Gen 1 or 2.
I should mention that what I mean is that Effie was a main character of Gen 1. She had her own episodes. But Pandora was just a character who appeared in Effie's episode of season 2. And then she got a main role in Gen 2.
Apart from some teachers are in Gen 3. But anyway, the book, there's not much story to it other than a character called Frankie being bullied for being different and being bullied by a girl called Rigga. Rigga had And I know that sounds like something else. I'm going to spell it out. Riga. Riga had Frank was in the bathroom and Riga had like made her vomit or something like that, and then strapped a strap onto her. Took some photos of her, like smashed eggs in her hair, took photos, and posted all this to a website or a Facebook page called frankieandgonafanny.com. I'm going to explain a bit about that later, but Frankie was her only friend and was a guy called Dean. Dean says, "Do you want me to deal with Riga?" Frankie says no, but eventually says yes. So Dean forces Riga at knife point to go to an empty park, pours gasoline on her, and holds a lighter really close to her face, saying, "Leave Frankie alone." Riga agrees. What she calls the police, says that Frankie did all this. Technically she did, but Frankie lied and the police believed her. That's the only important bit about the book, but there are some other bits, like a character called Liv meeting a deaf girl, and they sort of awoken each other. This Mary said, his deaf name's Logan. No non-deaf person has ever treated her the same before. This guy is Aloe. And there's also a bit of a girl called Grace and a girl called Skylar. But they're not important to the story of season 5. Season 5 starts with Frankie, who is now moved to Bristol to get away from Riga. She accidentally challenges a girl called Minnie, she's sort of as Netflix calls her, the Queen Bee. She's the Queen Bee of the school. But they actually become friends, or at least Minnie pretends to be her friend, so she can find out about the website, the strap on. Yeah. Episode 2 focuses on Rich, who is Aloe's friend. He is a very nonconformist metalhead. He's like me, but more extreme. He doesn't want to compromise on anything. Although the book does, the book changes that, because apparently he watched 4 Weddings and a Funeral, I think, or something along those lines. The type of thing a metalhead wouldn't watch. So he believes anything that isn't metal, even something very slight like reading a magazine that isn't about metal, is conforming. Anyway. So Rich is trying to date this metalhead girl. I ask Grace for help, and Grace does help, but it doesn't work out. The girl that Rich wants to date just basically insults him, and he just goes. So Grace is a very posh girl, but she's also an actor. She acts like a metalhead, saying that 9-inch Nails are pussies and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't listen to 9-inch Nails. Anyway, so just acting like Rich's folk. And eventually Rich decides to listen to this extremely rare album that apparently you have to be insane to understand. And he goes deaf by listening to it. And he was supposed to go to a Napalm Death concert, but because he went deaf, he decided not to wear a ticket. So instead, at the same time that concert was, or just before that concert was supposed to be on, Grace had a ballet concert in or a competition, whatever. And she asked Rich if he wanted to come. He said no. Well, because he's definitely decided to anyway, because he only knows the music, the ballet. I like that. And Grace says that I bought 2 napalm death tickets. Do you want to go anyway? Yes. And they do. And they start dating. Episode 3 focuses on Minnie. Alright, yes. So, Minnie is dating a guy called Nick. And Nick really wants to have sex with Minnie, but she keeps on making excuses not to have sex with Nick. Minnie is perceived to be to put it bluntly, super slut. She's not, she's a virgin. And she just keeps on saying to Nick, oh, not now, babes, maybe tomorrow. Just over and over again. And she had a fashion show that was coming up. And the only people working on the fashion show were her, Grace, and Minnie's best friend, Liv. Liv decides that the work is too much for 3 people to do on their own, so she employs Frankie. And with Frankie's help, they complete it in time. But because Frankie helped, Minnie just throws away all the costumes that they made. So Minnie gets kicked out of that group for the fashion show. And she stays home. But eventually puts on a lot of fake tan, making her look like Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria, and goes to the fashion show. That's all I remember from that episode. Episode 4 focuses on Liv. She starts screwing Nick while Nick was dating Minnie. But then she meets a guy called Matty. And they start just going around doing a bunch of stuff. I mean, even actually bust the pedophile. But they go home. And they catch Minnie and Nick in bed. And then Matty walks in the room. And Nick goes, what are you doing here? Because it turns out Matty is Nick's brother, who was kicked out of the house for destroying the house. Anyway, episode 5 focuses on Nick. I don't remember anything about this, so I'm just going to read the Netflix description. Nick is the star of the school. He's hot, he's a rugby hero, and he's got the perfect arm candy for Minnie. Matty's reappearance is unsettled Nick. Episode 6 focuses on Aloe. I don't remember much about this episode other than this might be the one where maybe else in next season. His parents wanted him to be a farmer. That's basically the entire episode from what I remember.
I think I cut out a bit there. Aloe's parents. It's the episode's focused on Aloe.
Episode 7 focuses on Grace. So, Grace's dad is the principal of the school. And he's very strict with boys and stuff like that. But eventually, he finds out that Grace is dead and rich. And says, right, you're not to see him again. And you're being pulled out of the school. You're going to this all-girls school. That's what I remember from the episode. So episode 8 is everyone. Because they're not going to see each other again, Grace and Rich decide to get married. So the entire episode is just them trying to get to the chapel. But Chris' daddy, who's called David, and he's played by Chris Addison. I'm just going to call him David. David plants a bug on Grace, so he knows where she is. So they get to the wedding just before I do. And after some arguments, they decide not to get married, but to continue dating. And they go on holiday in Morocco, which which is where season 6, episode 1 picks up, which focuses on everyone. So, at this point, Maddie fancies Frankie, and they were dating, but Frankie just seems to be an absolute bitch and doesn't like dating someone for too long. She can't commit, so eventually she starts dating a guy called Luke, who is a rich kid who starts manipulating the group, basically saying to Maddie, I've snuck 10, 10 kilos of coke in your car, delivered to some other country, or I'm going to screw your girlfriend, basically. And so Luke leaves with Frankie, and Frankie's different now because the writers changed, and instead of making Frankie as the fan base call her, gender fluid, she's just become sexy because the writer wanted her to be sexy. I've talked about this in my FR where I've explained it in better words. Anyway, Liv realizes what's going on and gets Maddie to try and stop it. So Maddie is chasing Luke and Frankie in their car, and Grace is there. But the car ends up crashing, and Grace goes into a coma. Episode 2 focuses on Rick, who constantly tries to sneak into the hospital with Grace, but eventually Grace's family moves to Switzerland because they have really good hospitals there. And at the end of the episode, Grace is back and has sex with Rich. But a day later, David appears and says, Grace died 2 weeks ago. So it was a mention. Episode 3 focuses on a new guy called Alex, who he's basically just.
I should mention that the scene where David reveals that Grace is dead is actually very heartbreaking. Like, I didn't know that Chris Addison was so good as a drama actor, even if it was that one scene. He was fantastic because the entire time the two of them were fought, they were on the phone with Grace. You know, Rich was on the phone with Grace, like, yeah, I'm in Switzerland and it's looking good. I'm recovering. I might be able to come back tomorrow. And then he heads in and David says Grace is dead.
Garden from Fight Club. He's trying to take care of his granny because his dad wants to put his granny in a old people home. But Alex Norris granny wants that. And he decides to go on to a ship with the group and buries. Oh, his granny died. He buries his granny and they'll sort of say goodbye to Grace. Episode 4 focuses on Frankie. She is just constantly having sex with Luke, but eventually she decides no more. Episode 5 focuses on Minnie. I forgot to mention this, but ever since episode 1, Minnie and Owl have been screwing. But Owl makes the mistake of saying, I love you, after only having sex a couple times with not even proper dating. So she stops. Mom's being a total bitch to her. Her stepdad's being a total bitch to her, so she decides to move in with her dad. Eventually her dad says, I need to go to Australia for a couple of weeks for work. Do you want to come with me? Yes. And the day that they're supposed to go, her dad leaves without her. Episode 6 focuses on Nick. So I forgot to mention that in episode 1. Matty goes on the run. He doesn't return to Bristol because he's wanted for the murder of Grace. But he's been contacting Nick through Skype saying, I need you to pay £1,000 to this guy so I can get home, so I can tell Frank I love her. But all of a sudden, and I forgot to mention this in Frankie's episode, Nick just suddenly fell in love with Frankie. So, oh no, what does he do? Does he start dating Frankie, or does he just, you know, go on ahead, Maddie, you know? But he ends up dating Mueller, but Maddie returns anyway. Episode 7 focuses.
That was most terrible writing, the way that Nick all of a sudden fell in love with Frankie, and also the fact that Maddie returned somehow.
On Apollo, who, after breaking up in quotes with Minnie, starts screwing this new girl. But it turns out this girl is only 13, and her family finds out about it. So they want to press charges. And everyone is treating Al like a pedophile. But Al genuinely did not know until it was too late. And when it was too late, he decided, I need to cut this off. And he did. That's because the girl gets so attached, and because he detached himself, she got angry and made up lies. But eventually, she decides to tell the truth. So, all was fine. Episode 8 focuses on Liv. I don't remember anything from this episode. I'm sorry. I'm going to read it in the Netflix description. With nobody to turn to in her hour of need, Liv is forced to face up to the choice she's made and isn't quite as strong as she believes. Episode 9 focuses on Frankie and Minnie. Minnie is pregnant with Howell's baby. And she has the baby. But Frankie tries to run away and meet her mum. And she does. But her mum is dead. And she meets her sister that she doesn't remember that she has. That's all there really is to it. She returns to Bristol. Episode 10 is the finale. We're focusing on everyone, obviously, and it's just them dealing with Grace's death. By the way, the entire time, Grace has been appearing as a ghost to everyone, giving everyone advice. Like, it was fine with Rich's episode, but it just became disrespectful. So, season 7 is known as Skin's Redo. And it's split up into 3 parts: Fire, Pure, and Rise. Each of these parts are split up into 2 episodes. Fire is about Effie, who is now in London working a job in money. I don't exactly know what it is. She's now living with Emily and Naomi.
I just want to say, I don't own a dog. That must be the neighbour's dog.
Turns out Naomi has terminal cancer and is possibly, by the end of it, she's possibly dead. But anyway, Effie makes friends with a guy who knows what's going to happen next in companies. That it's something to do with stocks. I don't really understand it. But a stock for a certain company is going down, so people start pulling out of that company. And Effie learns through her friend that they're about to merge with another company, which would raise the stock. So Effie ends up making over $1 million for the company, and it catches the attention of the police, and she gets arrested because that's illegal. Pure is about Cassie, who's now also in London. She's working at a restaurant and has noticed that someone has been taking photos of her and uploading it to the internet without her permission. Turns out it's her co-worker who just really wants to capture her beauty. That's all I really remember from Pure. Anyway, Rise is about Cook. Turns out he killed Foster. And now he's also working in London as a drug dealer, working for this gangster. And one time he is ordered by his boss to take his boss's girlfriend around to see houses to buy. and his girlfriend's just acting very flirty with him, really wanting to have sex with Cook. And they don't, but eventually they do. And she has sex with another one of her boyfriend's employees. And Cook's boss, I'm just going to call him the gangster. The gangster drowns this other guy. So eventually, Cook decides to go on the run with his girlfriend. But the boss's girlfriend tags along. So they go to Cook's girlfriend's parents' house. Her parents are about to leave when the gangster walks in because he was tracking a car, I think. And basically, he kills Cook's girlfriend's parents and Cook's girlfriend, but then Cook gets the other upper hand. And he walks off it. And supposedly the police arrest the gangster. That's the end of Skins. I know I did a terrible job of this, and even worse than Danganronpa and Assassin's Creed somehow. I'm sorry.